Ingram on the episode today. This is our 5th episode of Reconsidered. I'm Ethan Eloquin.
I'm Riley Acree.
We're glad you guys are here. Morgan has a pretty cool topic today. He wants to talk about why self-help shouldn't be a section in the library anymore. And I know that he has a lot of opinions and some specific things that he wants to get into. But first, we're going to do what we always do and get into our little prelude. Morgan is a motivational speaker. You go around to elementary schools, middle schools. Have you done high schools?
I have.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. We'll talk about that for a little bit.
So first of all, it's something I never wanted to do. It was no aspiration. I was the kid who was growing up and I didn't like listening to speakers and I would always fall asleep. So it's like funny that that's what I'm a speaker now. But really what happened is that, in my life, I always took some things for granted. And then, it came to a point in my life where I actually had to start working for the things that, the accomplishments that I wanted. And so when that started happening, I started seeing results. I started seeing certain things in my life. And I realized that, all the things that people were telling me were actually correct. And these are the things I actually should have been doing all along. So when that started happening, I took way more into personal development. I started reading more, started getting more involved. And so during that process, I wanted to help other people along the way, but I didn't know what that even looked like or what I wanted to do. So what happened is that I went to Dallas, Texas, because my uncle lives there. My uncle is a successful entrepreneur. He started his own nonprofit. He's retired now. He's doing really well for himself. So my mom was like, you should go visit him. And so I took a plane. I rode Southwest. And so if you don't know anything about Southwest, you can choose wherever you want to sit. You can do whatever you want. It's A1 through A130 or B1, B130. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with it, but you can sit wherever. So I sat down, and this random guy sat down next to me. I've never met him in my life, and I was reading The Law of Success by Napoleon Hill. And he was like, hey, you're reading Napoleon Hill. That's awesome. How old are you? I was 23. I was 22 at the time. I was like, hey, I'm 22. I'm just reading this. Want to learn more. And he's like, oh, that's awesome. You're super young, and you're already reading this. And then he kind of, broke down my life. I didn't know this guy. And he was like, because I believe in the Lord. And so he was like, hey, I know that you're a Christian. I'm a Christian too. And this is what I see for your life. You need to go back in the schools. You need to start doing videos. You need to start motivating people to do more. And I was like, what? How do I even do that? I don't even know what that even means. I've never wanted to be that person. What the heck does that mean? So he took my notebook and he was like, all right, this is what you need to start doing. This is what you need to listen to. These are the actions you start taking. This may not be your life, but this is going to be the core foundation of everything you do for the rest of your life is speaking to people and empowering them. And I was like, okay, so I took it from there. As soon as I went home, I started making videos in my car. People thought I was crazy, but one thing led to another. Started speaking in high schools, middle schools, and colleges, and now speaking at panels at trade shows and further and on. But that's kind of the baseline of the story and kind of where I decided I need to be a speaker. That's why I do it every single day. I can.
Dude, that is really cool. I'm really glad I got to hear that story. So I've already interviewed Morgan before about what he does professionally. So he's a sales development rep, and I asked him, "How did you get involved in sales development?" And he told me about someone specifically. I think was it Jim Keenan?
It was. Wait, who said about the blog?
No, somebody told you needed to go to Atlanta Tech Village.
Oh, it was Jeff Sheehan.
Jeff Sheehan.
Yeah.
Right, so Jeff Sheehan got you pointed in the direction of where you are professionally.
Yeah.
And then you had this random guy on this plane that kind of put you in the direction you need to be motivational. So I see it's a pattern. I'm sure in other areas of your life you have people that are really inspirational and motivational for you.
Right.
And now you're kind of taking that position that you've been given, that information, that advice, and then you're taking it and you're actually sharing it with everybody that you possibly can.
Yeah.
That's really cool, man.
Yeah, and the thing that I learned is that that happens every single day in your life.
Absolutely.
But you can choose to accept it or ignore it. I could have ignored that guy completely, and I would not be in the position I'm in today. It wouldn't even be close. Mm-hmm. I could have ignored Jeff Sheehan and be like, forget it, I'm going to go do my own thing and not be in Terminus. So I think every single time, probably every single year, if that, someone's going to come in your life and they're going to say, hey, look at this. Or hey, go do this. Either you aren't personally developed enough to accept that information and do it, or you don't have enough self-confidence to go out there and do it. So I think that's the main problem with a lot of people is that they complain about their life, they complain about their surroundings, but they've actually been presented multiple opportunities and they just decided to turn down on them and they decided not to execute. And so with the people that came in my life, I listened to them and I was like, I felt that in the back of my head, that's what I need to do. And then when that person came to me, it's like, this is what you need to do. I was like, I got to do it. Like, there was no, there was nothing else I was thinking of because I prayed about it. I was like, if this needs to happen, it needs to happen. Somebody comes out of nowhere that I don't know and says, I need to do this. And I was thinking about it. I'm slapping the entire universe in the face and Lord in the face if I don't do it.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel about it.
That's really cool, man. I really like that story. So let's go ahead and just jump into your topic, which is why self-help shouldn't be a section in the library. I know we've been kind of talking about this, and you've been trying not to really dive into it because I feel like you're about to go on like a 30-minute rant.
Which is fine.
Yeah, let's hear it, man.
So I'm going to tell you guys what the baseline of the story is. So I started my first book, professionally developed book, a book that actually was not assigned by the school or anything like that. It was given to me by my mom. And it was called How to Get Your Dream Job by Pete Lyman. Pete Lyman used to work in the NBA, and now he's an entrepreneur, he's a professional speaker. And so it talks about the things that you need to do to actually get a job, how to network, and that's how I understood how to connect with C-level executives and all these people, how all these connections in the sports industry, when I would be a sports agent, is because I literally read the book, I executed on it, and I found all these people. And people are like, how are you meeting all these people? It's I literally just read the book and executed. And so what happened is that from that book, I got super excited because I was like, this works. All I have to do is read and do what they say, and I'll be straight. I'll be ahead of everybody. So I was I got obsessed. So I started going to the library, and I started reading I went to the self-help section because that's where all these books were. And the more that I went there, the more people would be like, why are you keep going to the self-help section? Are you ill? Are you good? Are you depressed? And I started getting angry because I was like, I'm actually trying to improve my life and make things happen. And you guys are saying that I'm sick and I'm ill and I'm something's wrong with me. So I got super angry with people because I was like, I'm going to keep reading all these books because things are working. Why would I not do this? Clearly this is working for me, and I'm way further along than most people because I kept going to the self-help section and it was deemed as the wrong place to go. So I get super angry about the self-help section is because it's everyone who goes there is oh, you're depressed or you lost somebody or you're lost in the world. It's no, I want to change the self-help section to the personal development section because I want people to be personally developed. Because I think the main problem with most people is that, I read a status, 70% of people, after they graduate, never step into the library ever again.
Mm-hmm.
And people wonder why they are not getting results is because you're not going to read more. The reason that you got A's on the test is because you read the textbook. So, don't expect to get A's in life if you're not reading personal development books. Right? So I think that's kind of when I started reading more, I realized that, the world started opening up to me, and I just saw all the things became a lot easier for me. But people complain why is it not easy for me when you're not willing to just go and read a book to help your life?
Yeah, reading itself just gives you so much more mental,
exactly,
I guess, capacity, right? Because it's working out for your mind. And
well, really, no matter what you're reading, that does that. And
definitely.
And if you're reading self-help books, then that's just even better.
Well, or personal development books, right? Yeah. And that's the thing is it's not just self-help. I mean, essentially you are helping yourself, right?
Right.
But people have this stigma against self-help that you have to be downtrodden or in some horrible situation to even go towards that section of the library.
Exactly.
Which is the problem, right? It should be personal development because if you want to get better, go over here. Yeah. Find a book that interests you, that is directly applicable to your life. So one time I asked you if you had any good book recommendations. Yeah. And now I feel like that was a super foolish question because you're well, what are you trying to achieve?
Yeah.
That's a really good point too.
And I asked that question to every single person who asked me what's their favorite book. I'm what are you trying to accomplish? Half the people don't ever answer that question back because they don't know what they want to accomplish. They just what's a good book to read? Dr. Seuss is a great book. Dr. Seuss is a fantastic book. But are you trying to learn about poetry and Dr. Seuss? Probably not.
Right.
But I can give you a really good book.
Mm-hmm.
I've read a ton. But my thing is that what are you trying to learn? Because you're asking me that question for a reason. There's always, with every question, there's always a deeper question. Right? So when you ask someone hey, are you dating anyone? The real question is I'm trying to ask you on a date.
Yeah.
Right? I'm just trying to figure out where we stand so I can go to the next question.
Subliminal question.
Exactly. So when someone's asking me what's your favorite book? Great. I have a ton of favorite books, but what are you trying to learn? Because my favorite book probably doesn't even pertain to you, especially if you're trying to learn something about sales or you're trying to learn something about like the psychology of the mind, then I wouldn't give you like the 7 habits of successful people. Like you wouldn't need that. You probably may need like the law of success, or you may need another book that I could recommend to you, right? If you're trying to learn about investing, I wouldn't give you like Good to Great. I would give you something along the lines of Warren Buffett or Benjamin Grant, Intelligent Investor. So like I'll have to understand where you're coming from to give you the right book. But like if you just ask me what's my favorite book, I can tell you what my favorite book is, but it's not about me. It's about you because you asked the question.
All right, how many books have you read this year?
250.
I love how you know that off the top of your head. I asked you a couple months ago, and you were like 72, and I was like, oh my god, that's insane. Like when I first met you.
You're at 250.
And
250.
so you're at like, what, 5 books a week or something like that?
Probably 5 to 8. The goal is to read 300.
So
I'm hoping to reach that. If I don't, I'm completely satisfied with how far I've come. Because I just set that goal up high because I wanted to. And there's a reason. So the reason I did that is because, do you guys know the average books that a CEO reads a year?
90, something like that, 100.
What do you think?
Probably at 50.
50 to 70.
Yeah.
Between that range. So my guess was like, all right, like if an average CEO is reading 57 books, the average CEO makes about 400 grand. And so if I read 5 times as much, then I should just not have to really read that much. I should be focused purely on execution, and I should be able to pick up things at such a fast rate. To the point where, like, not saying that I don't need to read anymore, but to the point where, like, I've read enough to where, like, I know exactly what to do.
Right, and you can kind of slow down, right?
Right.
So you're going through, like, a training phase where you're like, I'm going to read as many books as I can now, so then the next 5 years of my life, I can kind of, like, even out.
Exactly.
So are you going to read as many books next year, or is that when you're going to
It's a great question. So for my next year, I'm only reading 10.
Oh.
I want to take a deep dive for a month and a half on, like, 400 to 500 page books, and I already have those picked out. So it's like an example is like Napoleon Bonaparte.
Yeah.
I want to read, like, I have this 500 page book. It's about like his life, how he took over the French Empire, and he wasn't even really French, like all this other stuff, like how he really did that, and like what was the mindset, what was the psychology, how was he leading these people? Dude was like 5 foot, and he had like an entire empire in front of him. So like, how did he make that happen, right? I'm gonna read about like Genghis Khan and like how he did what he did. I'm gonna read more about the psychology of the mind and like really like the beginnings of that and like how I studied, like really, really deep stuff that like I personally wouldn't be able to do this year because I'm moving so fast and I've just read books at a fast rate to where like I can tell you the gist of most books, but I can't give you like a super, super deep dive on the 250 books that I've read. But I'm comfortable with that because I've learned the concepts that I need to learn to about when I was on 150, it got to the point where I was like this all just makes sense now. Like the more that you read, the more that it's kind of this, it all makes like, it's all common sense, right? It's all like, I know this already. It's like watching motivational videos and successful videos. It's like, after a while, you're like, this all says the same thing. I just need to do it now.
Right. Just get started.
So how do you fit in the time to read 5 to 8 books a week?
It's a great question. So,
I was gonna ask that too.
So I mean, I don't go out much. I don't do much. I've just committed this entire year to strictly focusing and training and specializing in who I am as a person. So next year it's more execution and I have more time to do the things that I really want to do. So what I would do is I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I read to like 5 to like 6:50 before I leave. And then I commute. So I live in Norcross. So I have audiobooks that are playing. So I have like 2 hours of time there. At night, I read from like 9 to 10:30. So I get like 6 hours of reading it. Besides me executing on other things that I do and the videos I make. So I get time to read, and I basically from I don't know if you guys read the 4-Hour Work Week.
Yeah, Tim Ferriss.
Tim Ferriss. So he has like I read his books, and like he has like an entire YouTube video on like how to speed read. And so I just know one of my special skills is absorbing information, and I can do it at a very fast rate. So I can like watch a YouTube video on like something and like figure it out and like execute it like right on the spot and not worry about it. So that's one of my skills. So one of the things I had to learn to do is speed read so that I could absorb that information fast. So like the faster I can absorb it, the faster I can execute on it. Because like half the stuff in the books that I read is like stuff that I've read in another book and it's just the same thing. And basically from what I've learned is that all books that are basically written throughout this point are all originated from at least 5 core books. And so the more that I read, all the things that change in the books are just the stories behind them and how someone phrases them.
All right, what are those 5 books?
Great question. So it really originates from like Napoleon. I mean, it really originates like the core foundation is any spiritual book that you've ever read. For me, it's the Bible. So the Bible is the core foundation. So that's number one. It stems from there. It's number two. So that's the Law of Success, and that's like a 600-page book that I read. From there, it's Think and Go Rich, and then I would say from
Bob
there,
Proctor?
and then I would say it's probably a Bob Proctor book. And I literally forget.
Likes Bob Proctor.
Yeah, I forget the name of his first book, but it's
I think that's Think and Grow Rich, isn't it? Or is that
Think and Go Rich is Napoleon Hill.
Oh, okay.
So I say Law of Success, Think and Go Rich. Those are 2 Napoleon Hill books, but those are like the foundations because every single book that you read is from there. And then a Bob Proctor book that I forget the name of it, but it's like his very first book because he's been around for a long,
We'll put it in
long
the
time.
descriptor.
Yeah, I will. When I find, I gotta remember the name of it because it's like an old school book. And then number 5 is the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. Those 5 books, every single book you read from there, like something they got from one of those 5 books, guaranteed.
So you think if somebody just read those 5 books, they would have like a really good foundation? That's all they need.
Yeah. No, I honestly believe if you read those 5 books and executed on what they said, you'd be good. Now there are some books that you have to like. May have to read like a Gary Vee or like like a Guy Kawasaki to understand social media because those books don't have social media.
Right.
I'm saying like the 5 core foundations of every single book that is psychology, self-help,
Regardless
business,
of technology.
Yeah, it's in there. Technology, yeah, you're gonna have to go read on that because it changes every day. But like those 5 books are the core foundations of mind, body, spirit every single time.
That's awesome. Yeah, I really like how you brought up that Trinity as well.
So
the importance of it. Go
So
ahead.
why the like big difference in books that you're going to be reading? Like, so you said next year you're going to be
Right.
reading like 10 books, but they all kind of revolve around world leaders of the past,
Sure.
like Napoleon and Genghis Khan. So what? So is that supposed to like help, like with SDA and everything else that you're doing?
SDR.
I mean SDR. Sorry.
Mhm. This is
So that like you're like aiming to like take lessons out of those books
right.
and like put them into your career, right?
What are
those
those
100%.
lessons?
Right.
Yeah. So I'm studying leaders. I'm studying people who came from nothing, essentially, and became leaders. And like, what were they doing? What were they reading? What were their actions? What was their daily routine? It's not about what people say. It's about what they do. So I want to know what the heck they were doing. There has to be something in there that I need to be doing on that line. Because at the end of the day, like the position that I'm in is a leadership position. So there's a lot of people who look up to me. There's a lot of things that get asked of me, and I have to make sure that I'm doing the right thing for the people that are looking up to me, and I'm not like going astray from that. So I know that the people that I'm going to read were massive leaders. They had huge empires. They had a bunch of people following them. What were they saying to them, and how were they carrying out themselves to make sure that their people were listening to what they had to say? So I want to take that direction on solely people who have done it, and I want to see what they did instead of reading stuff that's like more actionable tips and just like stuff that people have done research on. Like this is coming from the mouths of the people who like did it, and I want that type of context going in 2017 because I feel like most of the actions that I'll take will be in that regard.
Dude, this is awesome. I felt like in the past only 18 minutes. Wow, this felt like a whole like hour. Like there's hours worth of like, material that we get like in a typical episode. Dude, this is fantastic. I want to hear more about like if you could break down like 5 or 4, 3 important things in the mind category of that mind, body, spirit. Like maybe like I don't know if leadership would involve in that.
Yeah.
Something about personal growth. Can you like pick out like 3 to 5 topics that are extremely important that like you think people, if they're focused on growing, what should they think about? What should be their main goals?
Yeah. So I think it all comes down to the structure that I was taught. So everyone is on one of these levels, whether you like it or not. So it's unmotivated, motivated, self-motivated, and motivator. Those are the 4 levels of motivations. You're on one of those 4, whether you like it or not. So unmotivated means that like you don't want to do anything. You're probably depressed. You don't think you're great. Like you have no self-confidence. Like you really don't think you can make things happen. That's unmotivated. And then the next is like you're motivated. Like you're motivated to do stuff, but you're not self-motivated. Like someone kind of needs to like spur you along, but you at least want to learn more. And then self-motivated is like you're out there and you're doing it, you don't really need that extra motivation, that inspiration. And then motivator is like someone who would like basically like myself, who gives out a lot of content, a lot of value, who's like on a panel or doing some speaking or like something like that, or like actually like providing more light and values to the world. So one of those 4 levels you're in. So there's a way that you can get all the way to motivator at the end of the day, I believe. A lot of people don't get there, but I think you can go from unmotivated to motivator, because that's how I was unmotivated and I went to motivator. So it's possible. It can happen. So I think what the biggest thing is, there's steps within that process. You're not going to be able to get on a camera and tell people to go do something when you are not motivated at all.
Right.
Because I'm able to see right through that. So the biggest thing when you're unmotivated is you have to figure out, how can I get rid of the negative thoughts that are getting in my head? So this goes along my whole tagline, which is liberation. Like getting rid of negative thoughts to implement positive thoughts inside of your head to have a positive mindset. So how does that happen? So basically you have to go in the section that I don't like, the self-help section. Well, I like to call it personal development section on my own terms. So you have to go in there and you have to find books that twist that mindset, that help you put the positive thoughts in your head and start giving you more self-confidence about who you are as a person. And you're going to have to get that from somewhere. I don't know where you're going to get it from, but you can't get it from somebody else that's a human.
That doesn't just come from mind, but it also comes from body and spirit, right?
Right,
so you
right.
Have to be,
but it has to come from the mind first.
Yeah. Well, you have to be good with God.
Regardless.
And I think that when you work out,
right,
you just feel better. You feel more motivated.
Right.
You feel more confident. So that's something that like feeds into your mind as well. It's like you can't just be motivated in your mind and not actually do all the other aspects of it.
Exactly. So my whole point is that like I don't care who you are. I don't care how ripped you are. I don't care how. It doesn't matter. If you don't have any positivity or self-confidence who you are, you're not going to be able to have the positive thought of going to the gym for the long-term result. You're not going to have the positive thought to ever have a good spiritual lifestyle, because your mind is messed up. Because at any point in time, you can be inconsistent with those two. But if your mind's on point and you know what you need to do, you're going to eventually do those things because your mind is in tune with what needs to happen. Like your positive vibrations are going to go in the right direction. But if your mind's negative, then you're not going to be consistent with your body. You're not going to be consistent in your spiritual life.
Yeah, and consistency is so important.
Yeah.
And that's going back to the 4 things you talked about, the 4 stages. I think as you're going from that unmotivated to motivator point, or even to the self-motivated, I feel like people that are in that just motivated stage kind of go in and out of that self-motivated to unmotivated, and it's definitely a process, right? Yeah. In a journey, and that actually ties into one of our previous episodes too, where we actually talked a lot about faith and how people go through this. They call it spiral dynamics. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
I have,
but yeah, it's a really cool theory. Yeah. So, Riley, do you have any questions?
How else would you tell, like if you had to tell somebody how to go from unmotivated to motivator, other than reading?
Yeah, what would be the first step?
Other than
reading,
the
first step?
Like within your mind, or within finding influences from people around you that you can see that are positive and motivational.
So this one's simple, but it's not easy. So let's say, what majority of your day, because you go from college?
I am. He's not.
No.
Okay, so you're heading to class. What are you normally doing when you head to class?
Yeah, I'm on my phone or listening to music or something.
Okay, like if you're heading to class or going.
Well, when I went to Chattahoochee for a little bit. But,
yeah.
I mean, I was just driving. I would just drive, listen to music, and then go back. I mean, get there.
Core theme, and that was listening to music.
Yeah.
You got to stop listening to music. Nobody likes this.
What, silence?
No, that's silence. You need to listen to things that are not music. And I'm going to break this down. So depends on what kind of music that you listen to, you slightly turn into that person. And you slightly have the persona of that person who you're listening to. Whether you like it or not, you don't realize it. Subconsciously, you do. So what you have to do is realize, okay, like I've been listening to so-and-so, so I started acting like that. What if I started listening to only motivational stuff and only inspiration for 90 days straight? If you do that, everything will change. So that's what I did. 90 days straight, went to class, did everything. I only listened to motivation, inspiration. I didn't listen to anything else. I didn't listen to like hip hop or EDM or country or rock and roll or whatever. I only listened to motivational stuff, inspirational stuff, and podcasts. Only stuff that was positive. That was it. No negatives. I didn't watch the news. I didn't do anything else. If someone was watching something else, I'd leave. I'd only watch motivational, inspiration, and podcasts. Completely changed the game for me. So like now, like I don't listen to it as much. I'm not as aggressive, but like I'm always have the energy and the positivity because I immerse myself in that so much that like it's not a problem for me to like be positive and knock out the negative mindset. But like the thing is like you're always listening to music. All you have to do is make the switch and listen to stuff that's more positive for your life. And then in return, you're gonna get the results of being more positive. So it's just making that slight little switch. But if you do that, like you're gonna see the results.
Immersing yourself in positivity.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
Immersing yourself in
dive into it.
and listening to people who are smart, who are successful and
Right.
motivated, who are motivators, and
Right.
that will definitely bring you through those stages.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that. That's really good advice, man.
Yeah.
I need to expand like who I find motivation from because for a while I've always been stuck on Bob Proctor.
Yeah.
And that was like the number one go-to.
Right.
But maybe,
Yeah. So do you have some suggestions for
Maybe
who did you listen to during this 90-day period?
Okay, so I agree with you right there. It's because it's like a lot of people have different personalities. So like Bob Proctor gets me hype, but he's not gonna get me the most hype because that's not me. So like the people who get me lit and like want me to run through the door, like Eric Thomas or Gary Vaynerchuk, Tony Robbins, Alex Morton, who's like just like a leader in current industries, and what is his name? I completely forget his name every single time. But those are the main four. When I forget his name, those are like the main four that I would listen to, and like they would just get me jacked up. And I'd just be ready to go, even though like I was still learning a lot of stuff. I mean, Les Brown. And so like those five, like those people would get me really excited. I'd be like, all right, like what do we need to do? Like, let's go. So like those people like get me jacked up. Like those are the people that get me excited. And I think you have to just like shift through people until you find the people that resonate with you.
Yeah,
because not everyone's not going to resonate with you.
I agree. Yeah. That would be awesome to open up, to listen to. So
Yeah, because I think it's all about taking chances. Because I think a lot of people don't want to take chances on listening to people and seeing how it works. But I think once you listen to them for a while, you're like, okay, like I want to listen to that person. But you got to give them like 5 videos. If you don't like them in 5 videos, you don't listen to them. But if you do, then you listen more to them.
Dude, you're our 5th episode. So we got to get people to listen to all 5 of our videos,
Exactly.
and then they can get an opinion. Yeah,
Exactly.
No, that's awesome, man. I've been loving doing this Reconsidered idea because we bring people on like you that are really motivated and are motivators, and then I learn so much every time we do an episode.
Yeah, that's good.
It's really cool to have people on that are fired up about whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I thank you a lot. Like I really appreciate it. Riley, do you have anything else?
no, that's it, man.
Dude, can we wrap it up? You got something else you want
You
to
got
say?
anything else?
I mean, at the end of the day, guys, don't call the self-help section the self-help section. I don't know. I'm going to stress this again because I think the biggest thing is that understanding that, like, everyone in their life needs personal development. I don't really care who it is. Like, from the richest person to the poorest person, everyone needs personal development in their life to get the goals that they want. Without personal development, I wouldn't be where I'm at currently because I always continue to learn every single day and knowing that I have to learn every single day, like, whether I like it or not. So I just want to just basically implore people to keep going after what they're going after, but also to go to that personal development section to learn more about your mind, more about your body, learn more about your spirit, learn more about what your environment is, because the more self-aware you are, the more aware you are of where you want to go.
Immerse yourself in positivity.
Yeah, that's what you got to do.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Morgan. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Only sunshine under the bright skies. Only sunshine under the bright skies. When the words are like bullets and they break through your skin, the bright skies. Only sunshine. You were always searching for something out there, out of reach, couldn't stop you, couldn't hold you back. You were so real, so real. When the words are like bullets and they break through your skin, and there's no way to get them all out. When it feels like rust seeping into your soul, stay gold, 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 stay gold, 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 stay gold, 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 under the bright sky.